What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky Rhett with you on a recap Monday, looking back at Week 5 of NFL action. Buck, I'll get to you first of all. Good weekend. Enjoyed the baseball. How was it for you?
Oh, it's been a great weekend. What we're talking about, a 1-1 split. We got all kinds of action going. We have Padres fans that don't know how to act. It's been great. It's business as usual.
Yeah, the Padre fans were the ones throwing stuff on the field. Go ahead, Rhett. Well, how was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend?
I can't see that.
He's trying to show off the hat. Indiana's 6-0. All right.
Good weekend.
That's enough.
Did you get it? Okay. All right.
I don't know.
Yeah, 6-0. First team to bowl eligibility. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
My Padre fandom or your Hoosiers football program. Let's jump in. Let's jump into the games, boys. We got a lot of games to get into. Buck, let's start off here. Baltimore, Cincinnati. I've got thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts, but before we get our thoughts, let's hear from Joe Burrow and attack this from the Cincinnati side of things. Then we'll get to Baltimore.
We're not a championship level team right now. We're not. I like to think that we'll come back and improve throughout the season to get to that point, but right now we are not, and we have to get better.
Look, he's kept an obvious statement, but not a championship level team. Just in talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, I wrote about it on Friday in the notebook. The defense just struggling. The defense has been unable to generate pressure. They've been unable to consistently cover, and defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo has been at a loss in terms of trying to come up with a plan to allow his players to be at their best. And I don't know where they go, because when the Bengals embarked on this journey a couple years ago with trying to get a lot of defensive personnel, they committed picks in the first 3 rounds in each of the last 2 drafts to get younger, to get more dynamic and more athletic, and it just hasn't panned out. This is one where the team is going to have to lean extensively on their offense to get it done. And right now, Joe Burrow and the offense simply can't cover a defense that's lagging behind.
Yeah, man, it's tough to score 38 and lose, especially when you are as just on it as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins were in this game.
I'm trying to get Rhett's attention. Isn't all Big Ten holder. I was just trying to get his attention here of how we get that hold down. I mean, that's why you're on the show.
Here's the thing.
This is
with the long
one time
snapper,
a year you get to talk about your holding experience, and you don't even take it and run with it. What are you doing?
I was going to get there. You guys, I was trying to explain all the good things. They'd be like, hey, by the way, they should have had a 53-yard field goal for the win in overtime. Ryan Rico, he got kind of jammed up by the center, jammed up here on the inside. So, we'd like to see the long snapper maybe get that a little bit more outside so it's easier just to go right down. But, yeah, just kind of as he was trying to bring it from all the way over on the right side down to place it nicely, it kind of dropped right out of his hand. And at that point, the timing is totally off. And you're not going to make a 53-yard field goal that way. And that is unfortunate, because that should have been a Bengals walk-off winner right there.
Yeah, on the heels of the defense making a play as well, get you the turnover. You get a chance. You're going to leave that stadium
bounced right off.
Well, it fell on the ground. They got it, but nonetheless, they ended up advancing the football.
Right.
But I was going back through this and watching it. The first thing I wanted to watch was on the Cincinnati Bengals side of things. I wanted you guys to do the negative so I could do the positive. Jamar Chase, if you're Jamar Chase's agent and you want to argue for him to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL, just put on this tape. It was 10 for $193, but it was everything. It was the change of direction quickness. It's walling guys off. It's being physical. It's understanding how to tempo routes, option routes, having a feel there, taking a quick hitter in the flat, taking it 70 for yards after the catch. Buck, if you watch this Bengals offense and never turned over to the other side of the ball, you'd be like, oh man, this could be a Super Bowl team. They look like they're humming with Joe Burrow offensively. That's going to get lost because they're 1-4 because their defense is terrible.
Yeah, the defense is terrible, and so it's on Zach Taylor to figure out a way to game plan to play with a team that is offensive dominant. So does that mean maybe slow things down and allow your offense to be the best defense? Does that mean speed it up so you can put tremendous pressure on the opponent and make them get out of a double-dimensional plan where they just have to run it all the time? I mean, they have to throw it all the time and they can't run it. I don't know. I just know this. When I see Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow lighting it up, they're wasting those performances by not being good enough on defense. It's now on Zach Taylor to figure out how to manage the game with an offense that's prolific and a defense that's porous.
Man, that is like you see this as this is probably the last year you're going to have both those guys lining up for you. I mean, depending on what happens with the T. Higgins situation, playing on a franchise tag, and then obviously with the Jamar Chase contract situation, that price only going up, and they've got not a lot to show for it right now, sitting here at 1-4. I want to say though, on the Ravens side of things, guys, this if this is what they look like on offense, watch. Right. When Derrick Henry's rolling, plus you're still having Lamar throw, for 5 touchdowns. Like that was an incredible effort from this offense all around. The one thing that I was encouraged by is they got Zay Flowers going in this game. Zay was a guy who was really popular with us in our rookie drafts last year. Right. And, he was a guy you could count on 5, 6, 7 catches a game. He had gone really quiet in the last 2 weeks and actually was kind of seldom used. He had just 31 snaps the last 2 games combined coming into this one. He ends up on the field for 41 reps in this game and catches 7 balls from Lamar Jackson. Was targeted a bunch. When you get him in man coverage crossing the field, it's like game over. And then obviously put the ball in his hands quickly, let him go make a play. It's just such a dynamic piece to this offense that when you combine it with Charlie Kohler and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely in the tight ends, and then a power run game, how do you defend that, Buck?
Yeah, I don't know how you defend it because just starting at the top, when you think about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, I don't know how you defend that combination. The fact that the Baltimore Ravens are leaning into the run, one of the first teams to go over 1,000 yards in 5 games, they've outrushed each of their opponents by 100 yards in each of those contests. That is crazy when you think about how physical they are, how they're able to really come with you with force. But Lamar Jackson is still able to deliver the big plays that you need in the passing game to keep the defense at bay. I didn't think that Todd Monken would be able to evolve this offense while retaining the identity of the Baltimore Ravens as a smash mouth football team, but he's done it, and it's one of those offenses that you love to watch.
Yeah, it's versatile. I went through all those Zay Flowers targets and watched those this morning. And, you talk about winning at the line of scrimmage with the release. They get some bunch stuff to free him up. He wins. It's good. Over. That was excellent. And he might be as good, and I know he's a young player, but if you want to just watch a full speed outcut and watch someone just rip through that thing without gearing down, like it's
18-yard bench route, that was special.
Oh, my gosh. He did it a couple times. So he's a fun one. But again, the Lamar Jackson game, huge win for the Ravens. Got to get the ball down. We got to get the holder to get the ball down. I know Rhett was, we were kind of joking with Rhett, but Rhett was a all Big Ten holder. So that's with experience. He's blaming the long snapper. Neither here nor there. All right, let's keep it going here. Let's go to the next game here. Buffalo, Houston, Buffalo, all that talk we did about third downs with them and who's going to be their guy. Khalil Shakir not playing in this ball game. They're 3 for 14 on third down. Offensively, Josh Allen, they completed 30% of his passes. So it was a struggle bus for them offensively.
This was the biggest fear that I had with the Buffalo Bills. Like, it's great to do it by committee, but when you play these big heavyweight games against teams that are legitimate contenders, do they have enough firepower on the perimeter? And we can talk about Josh Allen doing the Pat Mahomes thing, elevating them, but we've seen Pat Mahomes have difficulty elevating those around him if they're not at a top tier. And what we see from Buffalo, when they needed them to win against an elite team in the Houston Texans, the guys on the perimeter can't win, and that puts an inordinate amount of stress on Josh Allen, and he wasn't able to deliver on Sunday.
Yeah, that was tough to watch. A little bit too. Obviously, took a huge hit in this game, and ended up coming back into the game. Fortunately for Buffalo, hope everything stays on the up and up for Josh on that front here moving forward this week. But guys, and we can get to all the things that won the Texans the game, and I don't know that this piece that I'm going to talk about was vital to the victory, but it was certainly a part of it and deserves some real recognition here, especially this month as we celebrate and kind of promote the Crucial Catch initiative and cancer screenings and awareness. Dylan Horton, who is diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma after being drafted out of TCU by the Texans. 11 months later after the diagnosis, he's on the field, plays 14 reps on the offensive line or on the defensive front for the Texans here. And like, I went and watched all of them, just wanted to see, what that looked like. And, he had a couple of welcome to the NFL moments with Deion Dawkins. You go one-on-one against one of the best left tackles. That's tough. But man, he sets the edge beautifully on a tackle for loss against Spencer Brown at right tackle for Buffalo. And I think that was just a really cool piece of a nice victory against a good team for the Houston Texans, and something obviously for Dylan Horton to build on. So a little hat tip to all that he was able to accomplish.
Real quick from me, go around the horn here, Buck, and then Rhett follow up. I mean, should Houston be scared of anybody in the AFC at this point in time if postseason starts tomorrow?
Should they get Joe Mixon back?
Yeah, no, I think Joe Mixon is the X factor. Their ability to have a balanced running game is critical because you just don't want CJ Stroud to run it all over the yard. But let's be honest about the Houston Texans. Nico Collins is a top 5 receiver. You have Stephon Diggs who can win in the slot with Tank Dell. You didn't think about what CJ Stroud is as a passer. If you put the solid running game behind them, they can win a shootout. They can win a grinded out affair, however you want to play. They can do it. But it's defensively where D'Amico Ryans really puts his stamp on this team. They're tough. They're physical. They're aggressive. He just has a great sense of making adjustments in game. Very difficult team to deal with. They're going to be one of those teams that's hanging around the last week or two of the postseason tournament.
Yeah, again, just going back, get Joe Mixon back, get Dameon Pierce. They've been without both those guys, right? So they've been playing with RB3 and 4. Daria Gumbawale is getting a ton of carries here, caught that game winner a week ago for the Texans, and now, is a guy that they've relied on. So I think the other thing about it, like the Stephon Diggs acquisition was obviously, big just to kind of continue to give the Texans another layer, but it also provides like some competitive depth security, right? Like Nico Collins went down with a hamstring injury, was out, and you still got 2 A-list type receivers in Tank and Steph. I don't know how many teams can say that, right? Tank Dell went down and was out for a week, and again, you've got Diggs and Collins. Like, how many teams can say that they really have that type of wide receiver group that can make up for the loss of a top tier player like you guys are talking about? And we'll see how long Nico's out. But CJ Stroud, if you're open, he's going to find you, and they got guys that can get open. So it's a good combination.
I just, in the AFC landscape, coaching, scheme, offense, defense, playmakers, offense, defense, front to back on defense, inside, outside on offense. I mean, it's a really complete team. It's pretty remarkable to be picking as high as they were in the draft, literally a year ago, over a year ago. And they flipped this whole thing to like, if they were in the Super Bowl at the end of the year, I don't think any of the 3 of us would be shocked. Like, that's incredible how quickly they've completed a roster here. All right, let's get to the Sunday night game. Dallas and Pittsburgh. I'll lead us off on this one. Dallas, it felt like just kind of spreading the ball around. I was excited to watch the Jalen Tolbert tape this morning because he had 7 for 89 and a touchdown. I watched all of his targets. I didn't see like this dynamic, explosive player. I didn't see anything that just kind of like wowed me. I just saw, he just kind of looked, he leaks down the sideline. That Pittsburgh has busted coverages now for as much talent as they have on defense. I saw at the Charger game, they did it twice. They busted some coverage in that game against the Cowboys last night as well. But Tolbert catches the game winner just on a mesh route, just crossing, and Dak makes a nice throw. There was nothing unique or special about that. But Rhett, I'll get to you on this. The thing that stood out, they have 5 guys with a catch over 20 yards in this game. So you're watching that tape. There's nothing that just blows you away, but you're just, I thought Dak played a clean game and just, he let the game dictate to him where the ball was going. And I think sometimes that's when you see big quarterback days.
I would agree with you on that. And, the other thing I would say that is kind of special is the attention to detail, though, from Tolbert. On that mesh route, right, he gets bumped off a little bit down south of the goal line and then subtly makes his way back across the goal line there. Because if he catches that ball, a couple inches before the goal line, he was tackled right away. Like, it was still pretty tight coverage on him. So the fact that he was able to get back in and across the goal line by the time that Dak fed him the ball obviously ended up proving huge on a 4th and goal there with the game on the line. So the attention to detail there in a real big moment, something you like to see, obviously. I thought they stayed on the field outside of the Dak turnovers, which were not good throws, not good decisions. On 3rd down, I thought it was really important. Like, they stayed on the field. They had 15 third downs in this game, and only 4 of them were 3rd and 6 for more than 3rd and 6. So 11 of their third downs were all 3rd and 6 or manageable, or even more manageable than that. And they converted on 8 of their last 11 of them, which I thought was huge. Then on the 4th down, obviously, to essentially win the game. But when you can stay on the field, you give your playmakers opportunities to go and make those catches for 20 plus. When you're getting 3 and out, and you're not converting on 3rd down, and you're turning the ball back to the Steelers, like, and that's why you see that play disparity. Like they had the ball, they ran 22 more plays or 18 more plays than the Steelers did in this game. And when you have a limited possession type of game and you can extend those drives, you're going to be in a better chance to come out on the winning side there, Buck.
Yeah, no, what's interesting about this is there was a lot of conversation about like Mike Tomlin calling the timeout at the end, trying to set his defense to deal with the mesh route. And I would say this, if you go back and look at the video, I mean, it was the perfect switch. The corner's on the outside, the safety to his inside is going to switch with him, going to take the crossing route across the field. He's right there in really good position. There you see the safety jump it. He comes across, plays over top of the pick. Sometimes the other guy just wins because of the execution. I felt like this was a really good game for the Dallas Cowboys. And the reason why it was a good game for the Cowboys, because the Cowboys had to morph into a blue-collar team. They don't have the glitz and glam to be able to win people with star power. So we saw them play a complimentary game where they ran the football. You saw Dak Prescott play like a star when they needed him to play in the passing game. And then defensively, they made enough plays. We can talk about the Steelers offense being hamstrung or whatever by Fields. But overall, if you're Dallas, you feel great about this. And because you got a skin on the wall in terms of playing blue collar football, you absolutely can make this your identity going forward.
Yeah. Quick thought on the Steelers, and then we'll take a break here. But 3 of 12 on third downs. There's going to be conversations and at least whispers from the outside about, okay, Russell Wilson's healthy. Do we make that switch? Does he just give you more in the pass game than what Fields can give you? I just think this is kind of the way the Steelers are going to play, whether it's with, Justin Fields or with Russell Wilson. It's kind of a narrow path for how they win games. The defense, has to play great, and they're going to be in a lot of these 2017, 17, 13. Like, that's just how they're going to play right now. They don't have enough firepower on the outside, no matter who's playing quarterback, to find their way and play in these dynamic, crazy shootout type games. They're going to be in these nail biters, and they've got to find a way to make the play at the end of the day. Buck just described it perfectly. They had great coverage. They communicated it well on the game deciding play. They got beat, but that's the Pittsburgh Steelers team that we have right now. They're going to be playing these games each and every week, so they just got to find to come out on the winning side of it more often than not, and that's going to be the challenge for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. Let's keep it going here. Let's get to the NFC West. Buck, Arizona, San Francisco. I mean, I feel like I've been starting on the negative side of things with a lot of these games, so let's flip it over. Let's go to the positive first here with the Arizona Cardinals. 2-3, the record doesn't blow you away, but I still feel like if you're looking at the trend line for an organization, I feel like the Cardinals are headed in the right direction.
I do feel like they're heading in the right direction, and the large part of that is due to Kyler Murray is coming back. I love seeing Kyler Murray run the ball. I like seeing him being all the way back from the knee injury, and I love the fact that he can wave bye-bye in the middle of the run when he's 45 yards away from the end zone. Right here, little quarterback thing, beep beep, I'm going. I mean, like I'm going to the house. Like, that's high school type stuff. But Kyler Murray being able to do that. Look, this NFC West is going to be interesting because the Seattle Seahawks jumped out. They faded a little bit. The 49ers are dealing with the hangover. And here you have the Cardinals just kind of hanging around. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out when we get to the stretch run, November, December.
And for Arizona, I feel like there's still some pieces of this offense that, you're not seeing consistently. Like, boy, has Marvin Harrison ridden the roller coaster, right, this year? Goes from very little impact week 1, then goes off in week 2, and we've kind of plateaued a little bit. And then we go down, a little bit in this game where he catches just 2 balls on 7 targets. And then, we haven't really seen Trey Benson do hardly anything. He didn't touch the ball this last week. I mean, how many teams have you guys seen, on a week-to-week basis that only handed off to one guy? That's what happened for the Cardinals in this game. Only handed it to James Conner. Now, obviously, when you got Kyler Murray running it 7 times for 80 yards, that changes the calculus a little bit too. But they did not spell Conner in order to get somebody else to carry in this game. And then, Benson didn't have any pass game production either. So I think there's ways that this offense, is my point here, DJ, is going to get even better. And then on the flip side of things for the Niners, I think it ultimately just comes down to turnovers here. I mean, Jordan Mason has that fumble that ends up costing them. They run 21 plays in the red zone and come away with a singular touchdown. That's got to change if you're going to be a good team in this league.
Yeah, they just look a little lethargic. You see the little note on the screen that we're looking at here. They blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead for the first time under Shanahan. They've been 38-0. So that's That's something they just don't do. Look, Nick Bosa makes a big time splash play. They still have all the ingredients there. I've seen this in other sports. Buck, I'll get your thoughts on this before we move on to the next game. But I feel like the Niners just kind of feel like that NBA team that knows they're going to be in the postseason. And I'm not going to say it. And even I guess you could say load management. I know obviously McCaffrey is legitimately hurt, but it just kind of feels like let's just get to the tournament. Like they look almost bored and a little bit lethargic right now. You know what I mean? Like that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's hard when you've been there. You go to the pinnacle, but you fall a little short. The only thing that the Niners want to do is they want to avenge the loss in the Super Bowl. There's nothing that they can do in the regular season to bring that feeling back. There's nothing they accomplish in the early part of the postseason. They need to get to the Super Bowl, and they need to find a way to win the Super Bowl. And so it's hard for them to stay focused and locked in. That's the challenge that Kyle Shanahan has, because it's not about the team. It's not about the talent. We could talk about some of the execution, but that execution is due to a lack of focus. This team is talented enough to be one of the teams in the end, but can they be focused enough to go through all of the necessary steps to put them in a position to be there at the end?
Yep, I'm with you, man. That's everything's got to be in its place in the process. You can't try and skip steps. You still got to do what you got to do to get there. So we'll see what happens with the Niners going forward. They are 2-3 along with the Arizona Cardinals. All right, Green Bay and the Rams in Los Angeles. Rhett, this is a Green Bay team. It wasn't perfect, wasn't always pretty. But they get the W, and the Rams are sitting here at 1-4, maybe one of the surprises in the NFL, considering how they finished up last year. Obviously, injuries a big part of that.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think anytime you're missing, 2 out of the 3 biggest pieces of your offense, for the majority of the season, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. And look, I think that's part of why you're seeing, the 49ers struggle too. I mean, no Christian McCaffrey, while Jordan Mason has been good, still not quite as dynamic, as McCaffrey would be. And I think that's kind of the same as you look at Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua being out. Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington have been, good. I think Whittington had his best game as a pro in my eyes in this one. Caught 7 balls for 89 yards, a couple of those big as they were on the comeback run here. I mean, they got close here in this game now. Like they had the ball with under a minute to play, going in for, potential game-winning score. They're in plus territory. And on 4th down, Stafford just can't quite connect with Parkinson over the middle. Like, they had their opportunities in this game. They'll look at the interception by Stafford, want to have that back. But they ran 75 plays. Like, they were running the ball pretty good. I mean, Kyron goes for over 100. It's just they're missing that explosive factor, it felt like to me. But I think the Rams, if they get those guys back, I'm not counting that team out in any way, shape, or form. Good news on the Packers side of things. I mean, Tucker Kraft, stud, right? I mean, I thought Musgrave was going to kind of be the guy to follow this year at the tight end spot. It turns out it's Kraft.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. It was exactly where I was going, because I was going to get to Bucky on this, because we've talked about this so many times. This was the 2nd round pick in Musgrave. Then you come back and you get Kraft in the 3rd round. You double up at a position. And we talk about this every single draft after the draft. How many times have we seen the double up at the position? The second guy ends up being better than the first guy, Buck.
Yeah, I mean, we see it time and time again, and it's one of the things Baltimore has done it. We saw them do it. I think Isaiah Likely,
Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I mean, they've done it time and time again. But for the Green Bay Packers, look, it's worked out, and Kraft being able to make plays down the field. You have Musgrave there. You have all these young receivers there. Now, we did get our first sign of trouble in paradise. Romeo Dobbs gets suspended for the game because he's not happy with the touches. But that's what you have when you got a bunch of guys that I won't say are similarly talented, but you got a bunch of guys vying to be the top option in the passing game. You're going to have some of that competitive stuff that leads to it. But you got to love the diversity that the Green Bay Packers have by having so many weapons on the perimeter. They just need to figure out which one is the hot hand each week.
Yeah, no, it's the pecking order there is going to be fascinating to follow throughout the whole season. I think that's a very intriguing storyline with the Green Bay Packers.
Got to get the ball to Jaden Reed, right? Like, to me, that's the most explosive guy they got. Yeah.
All right, it's time. It's time for Cruising to Victory, presented by Royal Caribbean. We're going to cruise all the way over to London, because this is where we had a very interesting game between the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Jets, a game the Vikings were in control of early and just kind of did nothing in the second half, held on and got enough turnovers there from Aaron Rodgers to get out of there with the win. The Vikings are 5-0. Red, it wasn't always pretty what the Minnesota Vikings did in this game, but again, the defense just continues to make plays and generate turnovers and negative plays.
That was certainly the case early on, as it helped them build the lead, right? They built the lead and then they played well with it and, came back and got the necessary field goals to remain on top in the game, but it's all about building the lead. And that allows, the way that they can play that defense, with Brian Flores, you playing that defense when they've got a double-digit lead. I don't want to be that quarterback. And I think Aaron Rodgers, Bucky, kind of figured that out. He was taking some hits in this game, made some bad throws in this game, bad decisions in this game, uncharacteristic of what we've seen for the majority of his career. I think that's kind of what this Brian Flores defense has proved to do for quarterbacks, is kind of humble them a little bit. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
A very humbling experience for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers with 3 interceptions. We talk about 50+ pass attempts, and he just looked he never looked comfortable. And I know as an aging quarterback, you don't like getting hit, but the one thing that the Minnesota Vikings are going to do, they are going to hit your quarterback because they're going to do enough simulated pressures to go with their real pressures that on occasion they're going to get free runners. But that's the stuff. Van Ginkel dropping out. They put so much pressure on you, not physically, but mentally, because you just never know where these defenders are going to pop up out the ground and end up in your passing lane.
On the other side of things, by the way, you go over to the Jets. Garrett Wilson, I believe the target number was 22, 13 catches, 101 yards.
Targets.
But it's all the production is still quick hitters. It's slants, it's now routes, it's just getting the ball to him right away. I still feel like they're missing opportunities with him to get something more down the field and let him show all that he can do. I mean, I was glad they're feeding him a bunch. Allen Lazard still gets a ton of targets. Mike Williams has not been either healthy or a fit because he doesn't get many targets, and they're not on the same page on the crucial interception at the end of the game where he's late to turn his head. Rodgers tries to throw a back shoulder to him. It hasn't been a fit there for Mike Williams with Aaron Rodgers.
Hey,
go ahead, Rhett.
Yeah, just real quick on this. Like, if we're talking about Davante Adams coming in here, like, what does he do that's going to make this offense more dynamic?
Garrett Wilson. That's what he does.
I mean, Garrett Wilson's targets get drastically diminished, and everybody's still running slants. I don't know. Does he make them more dynamic? Maybe then you can send Wilson down the field more.
I did a breakdown on their kind of issues not being on the same page with Garrett Wilson and with A-Rod. And Buck, you can jump in on this because like just some of let me start here. What made Aaron Rodgers the incredible quarterback that he is and the best quarterback for a long stretch of time was that for years we had 2 schools of quarterbacks. You had the strong arm, dynamic arm, fit balls in tight windows, power arms. And then you had the anticipation, timing, touch throwers. You were a quarterback, you were in one of those 2 camps. I think he's the first one who was A++ at both. So he could throw with anticipation, but then still had rare velocity and just a power arm to go along with it. But he plays the game with anticipation. And when you're trying to throw an out route and Garrett Wilson gives you a little extra at the top, well, he doesn't want you to do that. He wants to throw it when his back foot hits the ground, and that ball has been skipping out of bounds early in the season. Even on some of the slant routes, it just didn't look like they were on the same page about the angle and how flat he wants to throw the ball. The Niner game to start the season on the big 4th down, they're not really on the same page there. So I think with Davante Adams, we can say, okay, well, Garrett Wilson's more talented Davante at this point in time in their careers, and Garrett Wilson's on the ascension. Davante might be on the downside. But I think with Aaron Rodgers is sitting there saying, yeah, but if we speak the same language and read out of the same book, then the production will come along with it. I'm just saying, I think Davante, if he goes there, he'll help A-Rod. But Buck, you've been around it a long time and you've been in that position room. That's not going to go over well with Garrett Wilson. That's just my outside in perspective.
100%, because I'm gonna tell you a lot of my opinion has been shaped watching the Netflix show Receiver, where you had a chance to see Davante Adams, and Davante Adams didn't appear to be great when he wasn't getting the ball, and so now you bring him into a wide receiver room where you already have people complaining a little bit about the offense stylistically, not getting touches and all those things. And you also have a young receiver in Garrett Wilson, who was an offensive rookie of the year, who feels like he is the number one. Well, what does that do to the marquee if Devontae Adams comes in? Do they share the marquee? Does Devontae Adams concede and become the number two? A lot of mouths to feed, a lot of egos to stroke. It would be a difficult situation to manage if you're Robert Saleh, because you've already are wrestling with things with Aaron Rodgers. Now you bring in another one of his guys. I just think it becomes very contentious in that wide receiver room.
Anything on that one, Rhett?
Yeah, I mean, I that's kind of the way I was feeling. Like, what ultimately, though, what does this do? Does this, if Devontae comes in, does this make them a more dynamic offense, or is it just a shift of the targets? And maybe there's a little bit more efficiency there because of the comfortability and the relationship between those two. We'll see. But as of right now, like they're still missing. I mean, they obviously couldn't run the football, but when you're down 17 early on, I know that makes it a little bit more difficult. But right now, I feel pretty dang good if I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan.
Let's get to Bucky's game here. Indianapolis, Jacksonville, a game that the Jags 1,000% had to have. And it's going to bring us to something I'm excited about, because it's time for Saucy Nugs of the Week presented by Wendy's. And a Saucy Nug is not just a nug. It's not just a little bit of information. It's got to have a little sauce to it. It's got to be a little something special. So we have a little nug here, Buck, on a receiver that we've been talking about for a while now, Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, who's been awesome. But you look at what he's on pace for. He's on pace for a top 5 season in team history, 79.4 receiving yards per game. I wanted to get to you because I haven't asked you this before, but Jimmy Smith, what he did with the Jags. That's a big name with what he did there. But what I'm seeing from this dude, I'm like, this feels like that kind of trajectory that he's on right now.
Okay, DJ, I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to tell you, because I've had this conversation with two of my guys on the radio broadcast, Tony Baselli and Jeff Lagerman. And Tony Baselli is outraged, but I already said reserve a little spot in the top of the stadium for BTJ. Yeah. There's a little spot in the far right corner that is vacant, and I think it's right beside Mark Brunell. I think there's a spot for BTJ to go in there. He is, outside of Jimmy Smith, the most talented wide receiver that the Jaguars have had. And I'm going to say this. I know there was conversation about Malik Neighbors and the dog that he has. BTJ has it. It's just in a quiet fashion. His explosiveness, his acceleration with the ball in the air, he has already become, they haven't said it, but he's the unofficial number 1 receiver. And so with him and Christian Kirk and the big plays that are coming, Trevor Lawrence was on his game because the Indianapolis Colts allowed him to get into a rhythm. Brian Thomas Jr. is everything that they hoped he would be and more. This dude is a superstar, and it is happening right in front of their eyes. And we're only 5 games into the season.
It's kind of got a little bit of the Jordan Jefferson, or the Justin Jefferson, excuse me.
Yeah, with Jamar Chase and Jefferson coming out.
Exactly. And now Neighbors and Thomas, like, if you're the Jags at that point, you're like, is Thomas going to make it? Are we going to get it? All right, let's go get, let's go. They're probably sitting there totally fine with the way that thing played out as it was unfolding, hoping he would get there. I think it's just awesome to watch. Just that dynamic element that he adds to that offense just looks so much different than anything we have seen, Bucky, from this offense since Trevor Lawrence has been there at minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Buck, real quick. Does this calm the waters a little bit? Because the Trevor Lawrence criticism and heat, it was getting a little hot in the kitchen, man.
It was getting a little hot in the kitchen. And here's what I would say. One, it was Trevor Lawrence's birthday on Sunday. So happy birthday, Trevor.
Hey, happy birthday.
He had the 25th birthday. Was able to eat a cupcake after a win. But I think the Indianapolis Colts, the style of defense that Gus Bradley played, was the perfect thing for what Trevor Lawrence needed. DJ Rhett, I don't know, Rhett wasn't really a basketball player. DJ was more of a basketball player, but DJ can get this analogy. Wow. Right? Not because I don't think Rhett played basketball. I thought we talked about that.
Man gets paid.
Right. But DJ, you remember how you start out basketball practice where you may do some form shots, mic and drill, layups, then you move back like the Steve Alford video, right? Like you start close,
All-American workout. I had that VHS.
Right. So when you look at Gus Bradley, they want to play like umbrella coverage. They don't want to give anything. So what it forced Trevor to do was to take a lot of layups early. So he completed like 10 of his first 11 passes. And then lo and behold, when the deep shot came open, because he was hot, He dropped it in there. Whereas before, he was trying to manufacture the deep ball. Now it just happened. And because he was in rhythm, because he had seen a couple layups go through, he then was able to step back and knock down a couple 3-pointers to beat TJ.
Hey, hold on. Not only do we have a new wide receiver one, we have a new RB one in Jacksonville. Tank Bigsby.
Buck was a year early on that one. But that's like the band that you're telling me, like, oh, this is this great band. It doesn't hit for like another year. That was Buck was telling me about Tank Bigsby last year. Unfortunately, I drafted him on my fantasy team last year. He got me nothing. This year I don't. And every time I look over at a game, I see him busting a long run.
Yeah, this second week in a row. Last week against the Texans, he had a 54-yard run. This week he pops a 65-yarder. And talking to Tank after the game, he talked about the game slowing down. And because it slowed down, he now can make moves. He gave me the description. Last year, it was like being on the porch and flies just buzzing around your face in terms of the way guys and defenders were coming. It was fast or whatever. Yeah. But now it's slowed down. He's able to do it. And I will say this because there's room for him and Travis Etienne. But Travis Etienne is more of the change of pace back, more of the guy to get on the edges and catch the ball out the backfield. Tank Bigsby is your RB1 in terms of the physicality and toughness and doing the dirty stuff between the tackles. It's working for the Jags, and it's funny because the young guys are kind of carrying them while the old guys are either dealing with injuries or trying to find their way back into the lineup.
I'm looking at my notes on Tank Bigsby, 5'1", so almost 6 foot, 210, ran 4.56, had 30 catches, aggressive runner. Bounce and burst. He runs through contact. He has stop-start quicks. He's excellent after contact. He's a fun player to watch. And I would echo that after watching what he did yesterday. That was a very fun player to watch for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And if you need fantasy football advice, listen to Bucky today, and it'll help you 1 year from now. That's my advice.
Next year.
Yeah, it's early. Christmas comes early. That's all. All right, we had the Panthers and the Chicago Bears. Obviously, organizations are going to be linked together because of the trade. The Chicago Bears waited on the quarterback a year. They got a huge haul. Carolina Panthers got Bryce Young, who's already been benched in year number 2. You had Caleb Williams go to the Chicago Bears with a plethora of picks and players that were acquired because of the trade. You've got Bryce Young going to Carolina, who'd been had pulled talent out of that building in order to acquire you. So that's another conversation for another day. But based off of this game, I think Bears fans have to be excited. And it's not just this game. When you look at Caleb Williams with 300 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks in a game, the first Bears rookie ever to do that. I think Bears fans have to be excited because, Buck, I'm going to give you a saucy nug. This is a good saucy nug that's going to tell you why they should be excited.
Let's get saucy.
We're going to double up on the saucy nug. Get down to Wendy's, get yourself some saucy nugs. When you look at Caleb Williams, the start to the season, and you look at what he did, right out of the chute, like, okay, everybody's panicking, everybody's freaking out because of the way things started. It's a little bit slow. What was it the first 10 quarters, 5 touchdown passes, 0 touchdowns in the first 10 quarters played. Oh no, sorry, I've read that backwards. I just screwed up my saucy nug. That's terrible. 5 touchdowns in the last 10
now
quarters.
Your nugs are just soggy.
Well, it was my nug. I sent in my nug in one format, and producer Drew reshaped it.
They spilled.
Yeah, my nug was in the bag. My nug sauce.
It
was all over the place right there. So, anyways, it was. I really jacked up our saucy nug right there. Long story short,
producer Drew's just laying on the pavement over here. Just got rolled over.
Right. Let me do this again. Can I do it over?
Yeah, we can.
Saucy, just go. Just start it.
I'm going to read off my own notes and not go off of that graphic. This is off Tony from research. Tony deserves credit for the saucy nug.
There you go, Tony.
First 10 quarters, 57% completion percentage, no touchdowns, 3 picks. That's the first 10 quarters. The last 10 quarters, 70% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. So long story longer, Caleb Williams is playing really good football, and it's not just in this ball game, Buck. There's your saucy nug.
No, that is a very saucy nut. He has found his rhythm, and it was right on time. After we watched him throw, I would say, too many times against the Indianapolis Colts, they found a way to kind of reel him in. He's doing a better job of playing on time. Even though he still kind of veers from the pocket, he's done a better job of playing with the paces and discipline that we said was going to be a challenge for him. And the playmakers that he has around him, they will make plays. He just has to stay within the system and allow the system to work for him.
Yeah, boy, DJ Moore was special in this game too, which obviously meant, I'm sure, a little bit of something to him, having come over as the primary player piece in that trade. But yeah, I mean, the throw, I think it was the first one, actually, the one in the back of the end zone as he's streaking down the field from Caleb was just perfectly placed on the money. And we're still getting some of that elite, pocket craftiness where he's, maybe only getting 4 or 5 yards, but it would have been a sack otherwise. And so when you can, because this is what we saw in the preseason, right? It was, it was minoring in spectacular and it was majoring in scheme, like you talked about, DJ. And that's kind of what we've started to see going back to that time frame that you read out from Tony's research piece there. So I think it's all coming together.
Yeah, and pockets were clean. We had clean pockets for him to operate at. It's amazing how much better you look as a quarterback when you don't have chaos around you. They were able to limit the chaos, and he played at a really high level. The guy who was picked right after him, by the way, continues to just be on a roll. This time, literally on a roll with how Jaden Daniels was running, Buck. This was a clinic of taking yards with your legs, extending plays, and the accuracy still. I know the numbers, from a completion percentage don't match what he'd been doing, but still made some unbelievable throws in this game.
He absolutely did. And DJ, I used to bristle at this comparison because, during the run up to the draft, we love to make comparisons between, hey, Jaden Daniels reminds you of who? And the conversation would always kind of lean towards Lamar Jackson. I was like, I mean, kind of, but not really, because you never really saw him run like that. But something has happened when he's gotten to the National Football League. He is an unstoppable runner who also doesn't take shots, but has the ability to do a lot of stuff that Lamar Jackson we saw do versus Cincinnati in terms of dealing from the pocket. The Washington Commanders offense is challenging to defend because they have a dual threat quarterback who can absolutely torch you with his arm, or he can outrun you with his feet. They are very difficult to stop, and he's still finding a way to get the ball into the hands of these playmakers on the perimeter.
Yeah, Daniels now has more rushing yards than any rookie quarterback in their first 5 games since 1950. The other guys, who would you consider there? Steve Young, Kyler Murray, Dante Culpepper, and Randall Cunningham.
Nice.
I think he's got a little Randall in him. Like, he's got a little bit of that. Maybe not quite as big, but I do have a saucy nug for you guys.
Oh, wow. You better be careful. I got myself in trouble with the last saucy nug. Make it a good saucy nug.
Well, it's good. I suppose if you're a Commanders fan, if you're a Browns fan, you're not going to love it. Cleveland has now had fewer than 300 total yards and fewer than 20 points in every game this year. This is the first time Cleveland has done that since 1999, when I believe they were just getting back into the league as an expansion.
They just came back in the league.
So we've gone from 25 years later, we're back to square one here? Is that what it's feeling like? Yikes.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
By the way, before we get to the next game, bonus saucy nug, 1-0 against Dante Culpepper in college. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
Let's go.
Get your roll on. Get your roll on.
Come on, buddy. Come on. Let's go. Let's go to Bo Nix. I always feel like maybe it's just the David Morris connection, but I always feel like I give Rhett the floor first when it comes to Bo Nix. Go ahead, Rhett. Big win for Denver.
All I got on Bo Nix today, is he is operating at the podium post-game like a savvy veteran. Okay, there was obviously a moment in the game where, he and Sean Payton had some things to say to each other, and he was asked about it post-game, and he said, yeah, he told me he loved me. I told him I love you too. And I don't know if love was the 4-letter word that was actually used, but that's a dude that understands, that's a mature guy, right? Who understands, it's easier to answer that question when you end up having a victory, right? Like he did. But the first guy in team history to win in 3 straight starts, and he comes out wearing the Elway jersey too at the podium. Come on, it doesn't get any better than that, man. Our buddy David Morris raised him up right there, DJ.
There you go. Buck, help me out with some terminology. What are we calling that little swing screen or whatever where you've got a lead blocker out there that everybody would feel like in college and in the NFL is running right now?
Yeah, I don't know, but it looks like a toss sweep, but it counts as a pass. It's been a great play for so many guys in college. And
I feel like I'm seeing it a bunch every week.
I mean, I saw the Miami Dolphins do it over and over and over again. It's a cheap way to get completions and yards on the perimeter. I just love Bo Nix in terms of like how he's handling the stuff with Sean Payton, because Sean Payton can grind on quarterbacks. We saw him last year grind Russell Wilson to the point where it was almost uncomfortable to watch his interactions. But Bo Nix being able to fire back at Sean Payton's, to me, shows me he's comfortable in his own skin. He's very comfortable with the leadership responsibilities that he has for the team, and his confidence is growing. I didn't think that the Broncos would be sitting here at 3-2 and just beginning to maybe make a bit of a run, but their defense has been good and the quarterback has been managing the game and making enough plays to keep this team right on track.
Yeah, no doubt. Bo Nix finding a way to the winner's circle, 3-2 for the Denver Broncos, Sean Payton and company. I want to throw one more rookie note out there from the Giants-Seattle game. I know people are losing their minds on the blocked field goal and everything that goes along with that. We don't have time for that today, but I do want to give Tyrone Tracy a little love. A rookie, 129 rushing yards, most by a rookie this season. When I watched it, it was impressive just in terms of just being decisive. You saw some duo runs, vision, downhill. I thought he had a nice little blend of power there. Stumbled on a couple of them, but still found a way to kind of maintain his balance working through there. It wasn't like a solo mission where he was just making things happen on his own. They blocked it up well. The Giants actually, I think, are a better run blocking team than they are a pass protection team. But still, nonetheless, Buck, you get a rookie out there, Tyrone Tracy getting over a buck. I feel like we need to give him a little love.
We should give him a little love because I think, Rhett, didn't we discover Tyrone Tracy at the East-West Shrine game? Didn't we talk about the Purdue
standout? Better believe we did.
The wide receiver turned running back who is now putting on for his city with the Giants. You got to like that. And for the Giants, it comes at the right time because all the conversation around Daniel Jones was about him not being able to carry the offense. And he can't carry the offense. But if he gets some help in the running game and is able to do some other things with the defense playing well, he's proven that he can get his team to the winner's circle. For them to do it without Malik Neighbors, very impressive. Hats off to Brian Daboll. Everyone that poured dirt on the New York Giants said they were done. They found a way to do it, and Tracy played a big role in that.
Yeah, he sure did. And the last thing that I'll give you there on that is there was a college coach who told Tyrone Tracy in high school that he should be a running back. And do you know who his position coach was his final year at Purdue when he made the switch? That same coach. And it's obviously worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah, that's good advice. Much better advice than Buck telling me way too early to draft Tank Dell for my fantasy team. Just a year late on that one. You're late on that. Not Bigsby, not Tank Dell. Wrong Tank. All right. Yeah. By the way, enjoyed the Saucy Nugs addition to the program this week. By the way, if you're watching games on Sunday, send it to
What's up with the Saucy Nug?
Send it to me. Yeah. Send us a Saucy Nug. We'll get it in there. That's going to do it for us today. We'll talk about the Monday night matchup and what that looks like and have the recap for you tomorrow on Move the Sticks. We'll see you then.